What would your business look like if you cut 90% of your potential customers and owned the other 10% completely? This is the question that Olivia answered, and we're talking about today. Olivia, welcome to Edge for Tomorrow podcast. We're so glad to have you here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
So, I want to start at the very core of your mission. If you could explain why you have decided that this is the best way to spend your working hours.
I started Village after having done VA work for two other firms before. And what I saw between both of them was a combination of things. One, work-life balance and a better set of benefits and support for the people that were doing the fractional work. Strong training program, like really empowering folks to be the best version of themselves and give them the tools beyond just how to execute paperwork, but how to really be the best CSA that they could be. And so when I started Village, I first of all wanted to niche. I didn't want to try to be everything to everyone. I wanted to be expert to some versus, meh to many is how I say it. And so we chose to work with specific custodians and let that be kind of our guiding light, which actually then resonated really well. And I think is why we had a lot of success very early, because our messaging and our marketing was very specific to the people that needed the help. So that's the high level of why I started Village.
You started Village Financial Services. Could you give an idea of what that work actually is? If you were talking to a layman.
My elevator pitch when it's somebody that isn't in the industry, it's virtual assistants for financial advisors. We are more specific than that, though. Like I said, we have the niche of like specific custodians. So obviously we're working with RIAs that custody at Schwab and Altruist. And the scope of our work, I'm also pretty specific about. I think transparency is underrated. And so I'm very clear on kind of our rules of engagement, if you will. So we're doing all of the account servicing for clients. We're not executive admins and we're not managing inboxes, but we are involved in scheduling and gathering documents from clients. And similarly on the other side with review meetings, we're asking for held away account balances. We're not paraplanners, but we are migrating data. So when we get those statements, we're entering the data into the planning tool. We're updating tax planning records with data from the custodian. And then beyond that, it's the hospitality pieces, right? So it's calling the clients, it's hopping on Zoom with the client to help them get into their custodian platform because they can't seem to get it. Rollover phone calls, helping them with, doing that conference call with the 401k provider so that the client doesn't have to do it alone and fumble through it. It's all the little things with guardrails.
And I'd love for you to talk about, let's go back to like kind of a pivotal moment for you where you are posting on LinkedIn and you're talking about what you know and what you're passionate about, and you got a reaction that surprised you. Could you like take us back to how you started posting, how you found your voice, and what kind of reaction you got from what you were sharing?
When I started Village, it was just supposed to be for me. It was supposed to support my life. And I had a young son at the time, a 3-month-old, and I just wanted enough business to be able to sustain us. And that was partially because I had head trash around, like, would I actually be able to grow it to support enough work to have another employee? So it just felt safe to stay in that place.
What do you mean by head trash?
Oh, head trash. So it's a term I picked up working for a BD insurance company, but head trash, just like false beliefs, false narratives in your head that like, what if this doesn't work? Or like just this stuff that's like not actually true because I had never tried, but I was already like kind of disqualifying my own capability to do something. Everybody says on LinkedIn, post what you know, post what makes you valuable. For me, my head trash there was like, well, I know Schwab tips. Like I know a lot of stuff about Schwab. And I don't think that anybody cares about Schwab, but I just did it. I'm like, all right, let's just try. So I just started posting things about Schwab. We're talking like who needs to sign certain types of forms, very like granular things that I'm just like, all right, I'll give it a go. And it took off. Like people really responded well to it. The advisors were sending the messages to their director of ops, like, hey, you should follow this girl, make sure that we're up to speed on these. Like the monthly forms bulletins, I started posting like the ones that I thought were relevant and making sure that firms knew that stuff.
And can you talk about your connection to Schwab, like your lead up to how you really have found this, how you honed that niche?
There's not a like professional relationship. We don't have any sort of like referral partnership with them. It's just the firm that I worked with the most. I worked with mainly firms at Custody at Schwab and Fidelity, which makes sense because they have the large market share of for RIAs. The advisors that I worked with mostly used Schwab, and so I just kind of gravitated towards that. And I spent majority of my time learning Schwab in my previous roles. So I just chose the one that I knew and that I felt most confident in. And then Altruist, they've built that platform to be so user friendly. I personally think that they're like the custodian of the future. I believe that. And so when I was thinking about who I'd like to hitch our cart to, it was those were the obvious choices for me.
Can you break down like you how you view your role for financial
Mhm.
services? Like the value that you're providing and how you have really come to understand this industry and the customer journey completely.
For me, having started in, though it was the other side of the industry, so we have the RA side and like insurance BD world, I wore that advisor hat. I had my series licenses and my life insurance contract and all of that stuff. And so I did have an understanding of practice management, but the conversations I was having with my advisors when I moved into VA work were so much more than just account servicing. It was like, I was just trying to get involved in like, what does your onboarding process look like? What does your review meeting process look like? And how do I fold into that? How can I support you better? And so taking it from just being a task taker to like a true teammate, I think is like the value that we bring, because now I'm imparting, like I'm trying my best to build materials to get everything out of my head and into my team so that they can do that work for firms too. So we become more than just an admin, but a true partner. The other part of that is the hospitality piece. So before I pivoted to financial services, I was in hospitality management. I managed a boutique hotel and fine dining restaurant in Princeton. And that work, honestly, is some of the most fulfilling work that I've ever done. But I firmly believe that all service businesses are hospitality businesses. And so being able to bring that background to now this financial services role has been critical, I think, because there's a few service businesses that are more intimate and require more white glove, careful attention than financial services. And so I think the two are just like a very natural fit and set us apart because we consider those things.
And talk to me a little bit about how that hospitality experience was so meaningful.
Everyone now at this point has heard of Will Guidara's like unreasonable hospitality, but it's the little things that you do in fine dining, the little touches that go a long way. So finding and seeking out those opportunities to go the extra mile, remember their coffee order and put that in your CRM, but actually like acting on that stuff and doing it and taking it a step further, yeah, is I think the way that hospitality shows.
And how does that impact the customer experience or you as the business on the other side? Like when you do take that step, when there is that small touch that's made, that memory that is recorded, and so you can deliver on that. What is the business impact of that kind of service, of that kind of attention to detail? And I guess I can say, what's the impact of that kind of performance?
So for the advisor, I mean, the relationship with their client is strengthened, right? Now there's like more than just like, oh, investment performance. This is like a true human connection to these people, and they really see me versus just my numbers. For us as Village, our impact is just retention and building. It's still relational, and that now our advisor knows that we're really going the extra mile and taking the extra step with their clients, and it just strengthens our relationships with our firms.
You started your business one person with the mindset of, I'm going to support myself and my son. And your son, I think at the time was like 4 months old. So you're taking on, you know, kind of a manageable amount of work to be able to do everything that you needed to do. And you saw an incredible amount of growth within a very short period of time. Can you talk about how your business changed and, that those kind of like key milestones for you?
Was the first step of like, okay, let's see if I can get enough business to fulfill Katie. And then I brought on my office manager. And all this time, I mean, up until only a couple months ago, I was still operating. So I was still doing CSA work and trying to build the business, leaning into all the great systems that I've been building for firms and helping them kind of lay out and create an operational model around their systems, figuring out how to do that for myself, figuring out how to leverage my who's and lean into other people to help me build it and grow. So it started with Katie, Sarah, and I. With each iteration of interviewing, like there's the hiring process and then there's like the client prospecting process, like trying to improve the system just incrementally more to where we have it now, with about to bring on our 12th team member between the CSA side and advise on consulting. But just incremental changes of like being okay with where things are at, but just pushing the envelope a little bit further to say, how can we clean this more? How can this experience be automated? How can this experience be like, where can we impart more information sooner to make our conversations with clients more valuable?
Essentially, the work that you're doing is like you're kind of becoming a fractional teammate for these advisors. Can you talk a little bit about how the demands of the market or the demands of the client have made the work that you're doing, really essential?
So I kind of put firms into three silos. So the one is the solo advisor with a lifestyle practice. They don't really intend on growing into an enterprise RIA. They want enough clients to serve well and sustainably, but still maximizing that for their own income. So adding in a CSA to be able to take off some of that load from them is pretty much a no-brainer. Having it be a skilled CSA at that in all of these instances is way more valuable because the training curve is much, much smaller than hiring someone in-house. Then we look at solos looking to scale. So that's where all of that conversation around systems and processes and operations comes in, because laying that framework, even if they're a solo, now this is your first person that you're working with. How do you begin delegating? I had to learn that myself in my own business. So that was like, I had already been doing this work with advisors, but now actually sitting in the CEO seat, actually it just empowered this work even more. But helping them set the framework to be able to plug in other team members as they grow because they want to scale. And then there's like the aggregators, the larger RIAs, where we're really working more and like helping to fill gaps. So they might have in-house CSAs or operations teams, and we're filling the gap in between hires. And then also when they have transitions, a lot of these aggregators are either they're aggregating or they're acquiring. So as they have this like windfall of account servicing needs with these transitions, we're able to support their existing operations teams and add extra hands to that.
As your team has grown from one person, you, to now 12 people, and you're stepping from an operating role to, really a leadership role, CEO role, how has your work changed? But how has your perspective for the CEOs or the advisors you're serving changed?
I'm digging deeper into systems and how I can empower other people to do the work. I know I had this thought for a long time that nobody could do things better than I could. And that's wrong. It's totally wrong. It's just me putting the information in people's hands and giving them the tools that they need to be successful and trusting them to do it and letting them go. So that's been my biggest curve. And that's also my takeaway for advisors is there's so much trust that's involved in hiring a CSA and letting them be client facing, which is a requirement for all of our firms. Recognizing that, it gave me, having come from the CSA seat of like, why won't this advisor let me do more? Why are they putting this guardrail? I understand it now, because delegating parts of your business that feel so personal and big is hard.
How the impact of technology and AI in your work. Do you think that AI will take, the job or the 11 people that you've hired in the last year?
Yeah. No, I don't, because I'm finding all these ways that like we use Claude. We have an enterprise subscription for Village, and I'm just scratching the surface of finding ways for it to empower our work and make our work easier so that and we still have all of the hours. There's no replacement for somebody that can pick up the phone and talk to Mrs. Smith, figuring out how to use DocuSign, or when Mr. Smith passes away and we're working through the estates process with Mrs. Smith. There's no replacement for that person that's able to speak with them. And yes, that could be the advisor, but when we're working on computer share transfers, that's usually not the advisor's role. You need that other person that knows the household and can speak carefully with them.
When you think about what you're doing at scale, what it looks like to, your wildest dreams of success, let's say 5, 10, 20 years, what does that look like for you?
It looks like being able to hire without such strict requirements as I have now, because our training program is so good that we can train somebody with maybe paralegal background. There's still a certain level of professional experience you need, but not necessarily all Schwab experience. Having our training program be so good, it's taking that training program and being able to have other firms utilize it to train their CSAs, because this is also about giving back. This is also me having worked as a CSA and knowing that training programs don't really exist for CSAs. It's very much a figure it out as you go, empowering them to have the same information. I'm very open-handed. I want everybody to know and have all the answers, to be able to take what we know and what we've learned in working with 50 plus firms now.
When you think about what you will be doing day to day, let's say a year or two from now, how does that look different? Like really, overseeing more and more people.
I think actually my role becomes more visionary, networking focused. I think my relationships are 1,000% how my who, not how, is what's gotten me here. And so just having more conversations with people is actually where my time is best spent, as long as I'm able to build the infrastructure and the support for the people under me to be able to maintain and grow. It's not actually just maintain, it's to be able to grow on their own with the systems that we have. And then me being able to move on to the next project and empower more people to take ownership of whatever my vision is and run with it.
And where can people find you and your work?
LinkedIn for sure. And then online at www.villagefsfinancialservices.com.
Well, thank you so much, Olivia.
Thank you, Rose. I really enjoyed it.